Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for tuning in to Wine Wednesday. It has been a couple weeks since we've actually done this, and I can't tell you how excited I am that we're doing this again. Granted, I am also really happy that we took a break. There's so much stuff going on right now, and I really appreciate how much I have seen through a lot of people I follow, as well as a lot of people I've talked to, the self-reflection that's going on. And I kind of want to spend the first bit just acknowledging that I know that right now it could seem like the last thing we need is some white guy talking about wine on the internet. And I want you to know that I acknowledge that, and the main reason I'm doing this is because I believe that there is something magical that happens when you pop a cork, pour some wine, and talk with people with the tech down. So, with that, I want to acknowledge it, but also want you guys to know that I'm working actually to try and bring some different wineries in. So I know that there are some amazing wineries that are out there that are run by black owners. So I want you to know that soon we'll be carrying a few of those, but in the meantime, I just want to say thanks so much for tuning in, as well as I want to acknowledge that all of this is going on. That, and also there are a lot of exciting things that are going on for Bricks and Barrel. One of them is actually tonight. I'm excited to talk to Matt from Baker and Brain. He and I actually met a long time ago when I was working at O'Neill as the supply chain manager, trying to get rid of a whole bunch of really ugly bottles. And he was really nice and helped me get rid of some of them with his Fresno State students. And since then, I accidentally ran into his winery when I was vacationing in Los Osos. So tonight, I'm excited to be talking to him about his wine that he makes along with a partner, and I know his wife is involved as well, and also just the story of how he got there. Because I know a lot of us might especially be here in Fresno, and how do you get to the coast? That's one thing. And on the other thing, the other side of things is, hey, how do you go from where he was teaching, as well as doing a lot of other things, and then making your own label? So we're going to be talking about that. But on top of that too, guys, there's some things that have happened recently with Bricks and Barrel that I want to let you guys know. One, Gary, you joined. I will acknowledge that Gary has been helping me select some wine, and we have some really great wines that we will be introducing soon for the wine club. And that's going to be coming up in July. But if you want to be a part of that, as well as if you want to enjoy some of the wine that we're having tonight, you got to join the wine club. So the wine club is something we do on a monthly basis. You can pause at any time, and it is $65, but at the same time, with that, you normally get wine that is much closer to about $70 to $80 worth of wine. And you can pause, like I said, anytime you want, but Baker and Brain, the red blend we're having tonight, is only available through the wine club. And coming up in the next month, we'll be shipping out another pack of wine that can involve white wine as well as red wine, depending on what you select. But if you guys are interested in that, make sure to go to Bricks and Barrel and join the wine club. Not only that, but if there is one thing I think society has all agreed upon, is that paying for shipping absolutely sucks. Nobody likes paying for shipping. I feel like that actually could bring us together. If we can all agree, shipping, paying for it, it's horrible. Nobody wants to do it. Jeff Bezos, he's really the reason we all feel that way. But I agree with that, and after doing some calculations and advanced Excel work, I have finally figured out the magical equation to allow for you guys to have free shipping all the time. What we've done is actually all of our bundles now is are now free shipping. So if you go to our website, you will see a link to the bundles. Every single bundle that we have now is free shipping. We'll continue to add more bundles, but basically anytime you buy a bundle now, all you pay for is that price and a little bit of tax. That's it. So I just want you guys, how many wine clubs am I allowed to join? Joni, you can join as many as you want. As well as if you want as many bottles as you want, you can just let me know. I'll just send you a bunch of bottles. So I wanted to let you guys know though that the bundles now, free shipping. Wine Club, make sure to check that out. We'll talk about that a little bit more, but tonight's wine is actually something from the Wine Club. So I really encourage you guys, if you haven't yet, take a look at that. And then on top of that, guys, we're going to be doing Bricks and Barrels Wine Wednesday again next week. when we do trivia night. So those that have participated in the past know how much fun it is. We're going to do it again. So all that to say, there's a lot of things going on, but I now have a question for you guys. If you are enjoying wine right now, would you be able to do me a favor, either put an emoji of a wine or mention the wine or winery that you are enjoying right now? Me, Baker and Brain, Red Blend. Something we just shipped out last week to all of our wine club members that want red wine, and I love it. It's a Grenache Syrah red blend. It's not a GSM like you get so used to tasting in Paso, but it's a GS. So if you guys are drinking wine, please do me a favor. Go ahead and put a emoji down, and we're going to be joining with Matt Brain in just a moment as everybody joins. I want you to know my wife posted that free shipping is inspired by Nordstrom, and I can verify for a credit card that there's nothing free from Nordstrom. They owe me a Christmas card. Really, they do. Maybe something more. I mean, honestly, by this point, they could actually put the down payment in my next house, and I think I'd still have paid more. Just saying. Here we go, B&E. Oh, yes, some people, look, of course La Crema. Oh, Aunt Ollie, that's your drink. Aunt Ollie's enjoying La Crema. Oh, this is great, guys. B&E, I gotta tell you, Joni, you're gonna love tonight's talk. We are talking with one of your neighbors in Los Osos. You guys are both on talking from the same town, which happens quite a bit here in Fresno when I do this, but it's kind of fun to know that Los Osos is actually being represented tonight. What else are you guys drinking tonight? I know there's not too many people, but if you guys are enjoying anything, go ahead and post it. And while you do, I do want to point out a few other things too. So if you do check out the bundles that are on Bricks and Barrel, we have added a few other ones. So if you guys think you know what we have on there, please go take a look. We now have Master Scheidt. There's a bundle there that saves you about $40 on what you would normally be paying in the retail store. And then on top of that too, we've adjusted a few other things so that you're saving on average at least $20, if not up to $40 or more each time you buy something. And again, free shipping. So yes. Oh, the Zen and such a good one. Such a good one. All right. Guys, I am now going to talk to Baker and Brain. Let's see if this works, guys. Hello.
Hello. Can you hear me?
How's it going?
Very good. How about yourself?
I'm doing well, Matt. I'm doing well. How is, the sunset in Los Osos going?
You know what? It is surprisingly average tonight, but
hey, define average in Los Osos though, because average for us here around this time of year is about 88 degrees around this point, and most people are still AC 100%. So what's average over there in Los Osos?
Oh, it's rarely above 75 here.
Good for you. Good
yeah,
for you. That's nice. Good. That sounds great.
I do spend my days in San Luis Obispo getting a little bit of sunshine, but it's nice to come back to the coast in the evening.
Oh, I don't blame you at all.
Yeah.
You know, I gotta throw this all the way back. So I remember very vividly, actually, when I worked at O'Neill, contacting you, unbeknownst that I would be then doing an Instagram live with you years later. But at the same time, like I gotta ask you, do you remember my reaching out about some random ugly bottles that I was trying to get rid of?
I do, and you mentioned it just a moment ago, and it totally brought it back to me, and I really made a bunch of connections just then. So I'm glad you refreshed my memory, because before that, no, I didn't remember that at all. I remember the bottle.
You know what? And that's fine. If you didn't remember it, I think life would have gone on. It would have been just fine. It would have been just fine. But no, I remember this because, your career actually is not just making wine for Baker and Brain. And that's one thing that I want to kind of go back to. Is like, I would love to know, hey, so you've traveled, lived in a lot of different places. I think you covered Canada,
Yeah.
Texas,
Yeah.
Fresno,
Yeah.
and now in Los Osos. So I'm like, that's where you've lived, but what have you done? Like you've had a career that spanned quite a few things in the wine industry, and I'm kind of curious, like, what are some of those jobs? What are some of those things that you've done in the wine
Yeah.
industry? Or
Yeah.
yeah,
I always thought that I would get back into academia for a full-time kind of career. So when I first got into wine with my wife, we got into wine right at the ground level and wanted to learn the art of winemaking.
hmm
And I always thought that that would lead me back to academia full time. And as you know, I did spend some time at Fresno State. I spent a
yes,
number of years teaching at Cal Poly as well, and I really loved that. I love teaching. I love talking about wine.
yeah.
Um, but I also just love making fantastic wine as well. And so I'm in a phase of my life right now where I'm just making fantastic wine. So, you know what? The teaching part comes and goes.
Yeah.
What I love about my positions right now is though I have a young team around me that I get to mentor, and I'm always trying to teach. That's really my management style is I'm trying to teach and I'm trying
Yeah.
to inspire people with passion so that the effort and the energy comes from them. It doesn't need to be teased out. And
Yes.
so I like to be that kind of manager. And yeah, so right now I'm just making fantastic wine. Obviously I've been involved in Baker and Brain for a while. I'm
Yeah.
also making wine at a fantastic winery called Chamasol on the
Okay.
Central
Yeah.
Coast, south of San Luis Obispo.
Huh.
Wines that I've just been in love with forever. So really, really privileged to be a part of that project right now as well.
So let me ask you this. So before doing Baker and Brain, though, when was Baker and Brain founded? I remember reading this, and I've asked you probably a little bit in the past, but that was started not just with you, but who else started that with you?
So okay, so my wife and I are the brains. The baker is Josh Baker and his lovely wife Katie Baker, who Josh and I were making wine together at a pretty big winery, Chardonnay House, here on the Central Coast, making some great wine, but really had a passion, both of us at the same time, to go out and investigate some different appellations and what some people
Yeah.
were doing in vineyards with other appellations, and to make some really tiny batches of wine, just tiny. And that's what
hmm
Baker and Brain was founded on right there,
hmm
was just picking some fantastic vineyards. Not number one, that we're doing things for quality, really farming properly,
Yeah.
but also that we're doing things properly in our minds and really following practices that we thought were proper and also cool.
Yeah.
So talking about the two wines in the blend tonight, the Syrah comes from an organically farmed vineyard and has been for a long time. The Grenache comes from a biodynamic vineyard just across
Hmm.
um, the 101 into Arroyo Seco. So both a really cool appellation, kind of on the warmer side
Yeah.
of Monterey County, really Rhone friendly area,
Huh.
and grown in two very different ways, but really thoughtfully grown. If you're able to go organic, if you're able to farm biodynamically, you're in the vineyard a lot. You're giving the vineyard a lot of attention.
Yeah.
It's getting what it needs. And, Southern Monterey County is a fantastic place to employ those techniques
Hmm.
because you get the sunshine, you get moderate temperature, and
Yeah.
you get a good amount of afternoon wind as well, which really
Huh.
whips the vine and the fruit, and it dries it up. It
Huh.
makes it makes the skins kind of nice and thick and leathery, and it
Huh.
protects against mildew, and
No
any
way.
mold. So it's a really great place to farm in more natural ways as
That's
well.
interesting. And actually,
Yeah.
you're saying natural and you said farm properly. There's two questions I got actually both from my sister who owns a vineyard down in Fallbrook. So I'm not surprised she's asking this.
Yeah.
One, how do you spell Chamasol? And I think it's a CH, right? Chamasol is a CH?
Yep. It's Chamisal.
Yeah.
Incredible wines. Chardonnay, Pinot Noir, a little bit of Syrah Grenache. Actually, the first vineyards planted in the Edna Valley, south of Slough.
There you go. So
in
in
the
the valley, the San Luis Obispo region. And then the other question she had, which I thought was really good, and you kind of mentioned it too when it comes down to like the type of environment that these grapes are growing up in. But like, what do you mean by farm properly? Because there's so many different ways that people are farming now.
Yeah.
You've covered a few: organic, biodynamic, and now you can have dry farmed. You can have like, you know, the mass-produced stuff that I'm used to seeing in O'Neill when it comes down to like, hey, I need a low-cost Chardonnay house.
Yeah.
Like, but what
Yeah.
do you mean by farm properly when you think of farm properly?
Well, I think when I'm talking about properly in terms of Baker and Brain wines, and it's very pretty much the same with Chamsol wines. We're farming on such a small scale. We're making wine on such a small scale. Yay!
She knows about biodynamic, I think.
Yes, yes. You need poop horns to be part of the action to do it right. Exactly. So
That's right. Thanks, Sam.
what I'm talking about, I'm glad you brought it up because farming properly is contextual for sure.
Yes, it is.
If you're going to make a great $10 bottle or under, or even in the low teens, you're farming big scale generally. You're farming all mechanized. You're probably farming in warmer environments that have less mildew pressure, where you can kind of have open land, less contour to the land. And that's how you get a nice uniform crop that you can harvest mechanically and make a great wine at that price. So that's proper. That is
For that
proper.
situation.
For that,
if you want a $10 bottle of wine or less, then yeah, mechanized, large, easy to maintain.
Yep,
that's what you got to do. Absolutely.
That's the right way to farm for that bottle. Now, when people buy Baker and Brain, I think they understand that we're talking about very small lots, small production, and you're expecting a next level of detail. And the detail is obviously in the winemaking because that's the whole point. We're there babying these barrels ridiculously. That's the winemaking side.
Yeah.
And the farming side needs to be the same. It needs to be the utmost attention, but the courage and the expertise to pull back on the intervention, to farm as naturally as possible, to bring in the thoughtfulness of taking care of the land along with your crop, whether that is cover crops, whether it's insectary areas, a lot of that comes along with getting certified as sustainable or organic or biodynamic. You're asked these questions. What are you doing in your vineyard to make the impact less? What are you doing to ensure that the land isn't going to be some shriveled, plot of sand when you're done with it, and that's the topsoil is going to just erode down into the riverbed. So we've always really sought out growers that were doing things right from that point of view. So not necessarily always certified, although by far the majority of Baker and Brain's farming contracts have been certified. And in fact, we're proud to say that we've had relationships with vineyards through the years and encourage them and work with them to get certified while we were a part of their program. So we've always tried to be a good, smart influence, and promote farming choices and culture that we thought was smart. And
absolutely. Yeah. Especially when you say sustainable, I'm going to jump in here really quick because a lot of times people think sustainable, and sometimes it does come to the way that wine is, made, fermented. The facilities is it a sustainable facility? Is it, using less water? Does it have solar power? Is it, is it sustainable? But actually, you nailed something just there, Matt. When it comes down to like the farming practice, many people who drink wine may not be out in farmland, but farming has the potential to be very, very harsh on the land itself if you don't watch out. And when you have a vineyard that takes care of the land, like you can actually breathe life back into the land and help, keep it going for the long term. And I've seen, again, my background is supply chain manager for a large winery, and then learning about you guys and other small wineries and finding a passion that way. So I'm like, I'm pulled in two different directions, but I've seen it. And like, there is a huge sustainability push that I love with what you guys are doing too, because there's SIP, sustainability in practice, which you guys have been a part of. And then there's also less obvious or less certified versions of just sourcing really good vineyards that might not have the certification because maybe they don't have the money, they don't
Sure.
have the education yet, but they have what would be the good practices. So I feel like, you know, that is unfortunately on you. Like the winemakers now are becoming these curators of, hey, who's doing it right? Like who's doing it in the right way so that when it comes down to it, like it might not have that sticker, but still, you know, with confidence, like, hey, this is great, high quality grapes made in a sustainable way. That, not saying it's like, you know, the same thing as eating broccoli, but at the same time, it's better for you too, though. Like, you know, it is. Like, as far as that.
Honestly, I totally agree, and I think that winemakers that love their craft, they really take pride in the fact that wine is the healthy alcohol. I mean, it's the healthy. I mean, it is. It's the
I
healthiest
mean, no
flavor.
offense to White Claw lovers who love to boast that they're basically drinking LaCroix that's alcoholic, but still, I mean, wine is like it's made with grapes. It's grapes.
Grapes. It has antioxidants. It has synergies with the digestion and absorption of vitamins and minerals. You know,
Yeah.
there are good things, absolutely. And
I need to hear this. Keep going. This is making me sleep better.
it's the less worse. You know what I mean? It's the less worse. That's the truth.
That is the truth. Actually, I'm not going to quote you on that. I think it's the healthy alcohol. It's the one I want to quote you on.
We'll stick with that one. But if you take that seriously, like we do, and it's one of the things that brought me to wine in the more natural side of it. And for me, my education was in biology and plants, and I saw the very simple transformation of fruit to wine as something that was mystical and also very natural and understandable. I mean, beer, yes, you know, but beer's a little more complex. There's a lot more cookery. You know what I mean? There's more steps, and you know, wine and winemakers desire to showcase the grape and showcase the vintage. I mean, there's a level of transparency to it, and I think that a lot of wine producers have taken advantage of that, and I think that. Mm-hmm. When we see these grocery store wines on the shelf and their wine, you know, they're categorized as wine, they're not. They have nothing to do with what a small or medium-sized production winery is doing.
Yes.
And the ingredients in the wine are actually quite different as well. And I think we're gonna see.
Let's talk about that for just a little bit, because we have just highlighted so many things that makes Baker and Brain different. But for the average person, they might not know that this actually is pretty huge. Like the amount of effort that you're taking to be able to make sure that you really are kind of being transparent with the way that you guys are making wine. And that's not common. Like the majority of things, for instance, you know, like I said, I love the wine that we made at O'Neill, but at the same time, you know, to be able to make wine at that price point and make it as consistent as possible, the ingredients that go into it are not the same as yours. Would you mind talking just like briefly about that? Because you probably taught some guys that eventually worked for Gallo and Constellation or anybody else.
Absolutely. And there, you know what, they're really two different goals with those different wines. And what the first goal in a mass produced wine is, you know, a big focus on consistency, as you say.
Yes.
And the fact that these wines are really not going into barrels, they're probably living their life in tank. And if they get an oak influence, it's going to come from a stave or some sort of wood extract.
Yeah, oak chips, staves, things like that. Yeah.
So number one, huge difference there. In terms of the fermentations, you know, we're punching down small 1-ton bins by hand. Okay. Yeah. If you're making a wine that's under $10, you are making it in gigantic tanks as big as your house, because that's the scale necessary. You have cooling jackets in order to keep the ferment, because a ferment at that size would burn itself up. Okay,
it would. So you have glycol circulating around it, keeping it cool.
Yes. You got glycol. You've got to have some sort of aeration happening, whether it's mechanical or some sort of gas injection. It might be it might be just pure air, but it's certainly not a hand punched down, you know.
No,
it's just so different. It's so different. And when it comes to the aging of it, when you have huge lots of wine and you're kind of pumping them across your huge winery, you've got to keep those SO2 levels up. You've got to use a fair amount of sulfur to keep the wine healthy. If you're
Yeah.
making a wine that has incredible pH, number one, that's a huge part of it. And you can just leave those wines in a barrel for its whole life and basically gently bring the wine up into the bottle, like in a totally different manner. You
Hmm.
don't have to use SO2 in that same way. I mean, the amount of that we use in Baker and Brain wines is tiny.
Yeah.
The amount of pumping that happens is negligible. You know, it's basically gravity to the barrels. The
Hmm.
barrels get a quick rack up the tank, and it goes to the bottle. And the amount of SO2 you have to use to protect the wine through that very little handling is super low.
Yeah.
And you get a whole different product just from that alone. The minimal handling, the minimal sulfur use, you
Yeah.
get wine that is much more expressive in flavor and
Yeah.
aroma. If you put the two wines from the same vineyard and the same starting flavors together, they'd be way different in the glass.
Absolutely. And actually, I'm going to throw this out here too, because you've used a few terms. I know that a few people are probably geeking out at home and they're totally following along, but a few other people, when he says SO2, you know,
Mm.
when they say sulfites in the back of a wine, there's always those labels in the back. And that is, correct me if I'm wrong, that's what they're talking about, right? The SO2. Like, you know,
Yeah.
most have, you know, sulfur dioxide, which is used for a stabilizing agent to prevent extra stuff from growing and, you know, additional things from happening that we don't want to have happen. But when you have the quality control that Baker and Brain has, or the smaller wineries have, you're not adding as much. And again,
Yeah.
nothing to knock some of the large wineries. I actually, like I said, I have a lot of respect for large wineries. I think what they do is amazing. They're just creating a different product, really,
Yeah.
in a lot of ways. And the people that do it are outstanding people. But at the same time, like we're talking about now, two completely different things. If you had grapes brought in from, you know, the same district in Paso, but made at Baker and Brain or made at a large vat, like you're gonna
Yeah.
have a different product. I would actually, the thing that always hits me is actually the mouthfeel. When you drink large wine, it actually coats your mouth a little bit differently. Like that would be the number one thing. Whenever I taste something that's been mass produced, you have this film almost that you taste, and it's something that's used to be able to create what would be a good mouthfeel, is what people call it. I feel like, but at the same time, like what you have is complexity. When I drink Baker and Brain, I'm like, oh, like I taste all the nuances rather than my mouth being coated. It's not coated. It's like,
Yeah.
no, I'm exposed to all the little nuances that are in the grapes now when I'm
Yay.
tasting something that's not as manufactured.
I'm so glad that you brought that point up about our wines, hopefully specifically because we have always wanted to deliver wines of nuance and and aromatically distinct wines.
Yeah.
And a lot of that has to do with not over extracting from the grape. Okay.
Hmm.
If you're handling the grape gently and you're punching down by hand very gently,
Yeah.
you're going to get a wine that's more aromatic, but not as tannic, not
Mm.
as dry on the palate.
Yeah.
I think to some degree you want some tannin for mouthfeel,
Yes.
but very quickly tannin extraction starts to mute aromatic nuance and,
Hmm.
and distinction.
Yeah.
And so if you go too far, you're getting something that's less interesting aromatically. And we always wanted to, with Baker and Brain, be, Josh and Mel and I, we really liked wines that are silky smooth tannin and
Yeah.
very exposed, because we love old wines, and everyone loves old wines because they're exposed. They're showing all their character.
Hmm.
Well, the way to make a young wine exposed is, number one, use very little SO2, so it's
Hmm.
not all tight and wound up. And number two, don't bring in too much tannin, so those tannins don't need years and years and years to soften to kind of reveal those aromas again. So
Yes.
if there's a theme across Baker and Brain wines, it's that they're hopefully nicely aromatic.
Yes.
You can tell the nuances, and the tannins are nice and silky and smooth,
Yes.
even when young.
Yeah, no, and you know what? There has been two wines that we've carried from you guys. Specifically, we had one that was, oh, I always want to call it, was it, because you have a Gewürztraminer, or is it a Gruner Veltliner? Like, I always get the two confused, but it
No,
was,
we're Gruner. Yeah, Gruner's has been our flagship white wine for a number of years.
it is outstanding. But that was one that I had never had that varietal before. And then trying it with you guys, or, you know, from your winery, it was just that where I'm like, I smelled it, I tasted it. It was something that added a little bit more rather than just, oh yeah, this is a crisp white wine that I can just, drink on a hot Fresno day, which I still do. But at the same time, I can notice it a little bit more. And it's not necessarily, thank you. I feel bad. Amanda, my rep for JNL, she's been annoyed by me, probably. She's really nice, but I'm guessing like I've asked about that Gruner a few times. And she's like, no, remember, Trevor? I told you it was the last call like 2 months ago. I'm like, oh well. But at the same time, that and then this red wine both have that same, I feel like what you described, that same type of essence of, hey, it's got a great nose to it. Like when you put it up to your nose, like, and actually, you know what? I'm actually going to pour a little bit more and then taste with you.
Yeah, great.
I know that we've been talking about, your wines, and so in a way we've been tasting. But
I've
at the
been
same time, like I'd love to be able to now talk specifically about this. So Pendulum, Monterey County, you've talked about the vineyards as being both really unique with the different types of, let's say environments. And also, can I just acknowledge that if you guys just saw, I am wearing shorts. It looks like I'm like, kind of like, okay, I'm ready for my Zoom call. But no. I'm still definitely going for, hey, we're only doing video chats from this point on.
at least it's not a blazer and shorts.
Or TikTok. I mean, really. I mean, that would be pretty great. But when it comes down to the red wine, though, tell me, like, why did you guys go with Syrah and Grenache, like that as what would be, the red blend rather than something else?
Yeah, so we really hooked up with these two vineyards very early in Baker and Brain's kind of exploration of our first potential vineyard sources. So we started working with both of these vineyards in 2009. And earlier you asked how long we've been around, and
Yes.
we made a tiny little bit of wine in 2008, but 2009 was really our first real vintage of a number of varietals. So we've been working with the vineyards for a long time. We knew a certain grower in Monterey County named Steve McIntyre, and we knew that he was a big champion of sustainability and growing properly, as we discussed, and adopting organic and biodynamic processes according to different vineyards. And I also knew that he was just a great guy and very approachable, really nice person.
That helps no matter what you do. So,
yeah, especially when you're brand new and you're a young winemaker and nobody's heard of you, and you're going out to these vineyards and you're like, I want the good stuff. There were big, well-known vineyards that were willing to work with us, but we weren't going to get the stuff on the hill. We were going to get the stuff down on the heavy land where the clay was, where it was tough to balance the vines, and the price was steep for that type of quality. So we really put a lot of thought into where those first vintages of fruit came from. We found these two vineyards mainly based on their reputation for farming practice. And when I went out to visit them and visit with the growers, I saw that they were adopting practices that I could tell were going to farm for quality. But I think for those of us who are wine lovers and have been to wine country, we've driven by those vineyards where the vines are absolutely vertical, straight as soldiers, hedged, not a single leaf is out of place.
Yeah.
These vineyards were not those vineyards. They were grown a little bit more rustically and a little bit more naturally, and I could see the wisdom behind it and what they were doing. And I thought to myself, okay, these growers are doing it right for this spot, and they're doing it very thoughtfully. And it doesn't necessarily look like that perfect picturesque vertical hedge,
Right.
but the canopy is controlled. It's natural. It's beautiful. And they're doing it right in terms of the control strategies they're using. And we gave it a shot. And these two grapes that we brought in, that first real vintage, the Grenache from Alta Loma Vineyard in Arroyo Seco, that's the Grenache component here. And it is farmed biodynamically. It's got all these beautiful cover crops everywhere, just poking up through the vines. I don't think it's a no mow strategy. I think they do mow every once in a while, but there's so much beautiful cover crop and
Hmm.
flowering plants. It's incredible. They don't actually water under the vine. They actually water in the middle of the vine row away from the vine to try to get the roots to reach out further.
No way.
Yeah, yeah,
Is
yeah.
that common? 'Cause I got to tell you, like,
No.
okay, so when you think about irrigation for
Yeah.
vines, or at least I've seen it when I've gone out, it actually the drips are close to where the vines are, where like they're not going to go that far. So they put it in the middle, in
They do.
between the two vines.
Right. So, first of all, what that obviously means is you can't till, you can't dig down into that
Yeah.
vine row to turn the soil. So,
No.
in that type of situation, what they've committed to is they know that they've got great drainage. They know that they've got nice soil structure, that they're not going to have to dig in and disc that soil every year to open
Yeah.
it up. Okay. So that's a level of confidence that's really cool, because they're going to say, you know what, I'm going to leave the soil structure alone.
Yeah.
Um, and the fact that they're basically watering the cover crop and that natural insectary and
Yeah.
natural biological reservoir, there's some real resistance there. You don't want the bad guys. If you don't have filled niches in biology, something's going to move in. And this farm
Yes.
is saying, you know what? Okay, we're going to have things in the vineyard. We're
Yes.
going to have insects, but they're not going to be the type of insects that spread disease. We're going to have
Yeah.
some microbes, but they're going to be rotting the cover crop under the vine, not a grape rotter because it's been displaced.
No, and actually, I got to hand it to you because now you're covering something that we covered with Ampelos 2 weeks ago. When they started, and what they're doing is that kind of harmony, what you're talking about, really. Like, as far as like, hey, when you have that, now you're not leaving, like you said, it's almost like an equation. Like, when you leave something open, that means that some that will fill in the remainder. And like what you're saying is that this crop and this vineyard is able to basically create a balance and allow for these grapes to grow, but not invade with like pests that will destroy the crops. Instead, it will be invaded by things that will complement
Mhm.
the growing and the biology, like your
Yeah.
background is and stuff. And so, okay, that's fascinating. Also, something that I really believe is something that unfortunately is probably a little bit more old world than it is new world. Where new world, I feel like it is more industrial farming. Where there is more technology,
Mhm.
less of that, more harmony. I feel like I unfortunately feel like when it comes down to that word harmony, like I feel like I sound like a hippie. Like
Yeah.
people hear harmony, they're like, well, just grow your fruit, will you please?
Right.
Like,
Right.
but
Right.
no, like really, there is something beautiful about being able to have that, then not
Yeah.
have the additives and come up with a better product at the end. Like
Sure.
that's really cool, and that's what you guys get then as a result of this: a better grape that turns into better wine as a result of all this harmony.
That's it. That's the idea. Good question here on yields. In our vineyards, specifically with the grapes that go into this vine, the yields are actually pretty low. And the Grenache vineyard struggles. I don't think I've ever seen them get more than 3 tons an acre. It's typically closer to 2, sometimes under 2. Grenache is a little finicky when it comes to set and just in terms of vintage variation, in terms of how much fruit you get. So it's a little bit all over the place, but quite low. The Syrah vineyard, we're pretty much consistently between 2 and 3, I would say. One of the neat things about the Syrah vineyard is, as I mentioned, they kind of leave it a little more rustic in terms of the growing and the amount of touches to the vine, which is the amount of passes that you have to put a vineyard crew through. And they leave it a little bit. What they do to make up for it, though, and this is really smart, is when they hand harvest it, they leave some of the fruit behind. And I mean, you don't want to leave fruit behind, but if you think about it, if you're going through and you're tucking things up and you're manicuring it and you're dropping some fruit and you're pulling some leaves, well, that's a lot of work, and that equates to a lot of dollar value in the crop. And if they can just say, you know what, we're going to pull back on some of that, but then leave a little bit of that fruit in the field and just pick the really good stuff, we're going to make more and we're going to save more. And they found this really nice balance in it. So in the Syrah in those blocks that we work with, there may be 3.5 tons per acre, but we probably only pull in 2 3/4 or 3, something like that. It's a more consistent crop in the Syrah vineyard. A little bit more fertile ground, a little bit more big canopy, and then Syrah just tends to be a little bit more hardy than Grenache year to year in terms of yield.
Yeah.
But yeah, there we go.
I guess you see this one too from
yeah.
Hannah. I don't know if you want to answer that one too.
Yeah, I'll do that one as well. So when I just talked a little bit about yield in terms of vineyard, talking between 2 and 3 tons an acre, a ton of fruit translates to, let's say, 2.5 barrels of wine. A barrel of wine is about 25 cases. That means about 60 to 65 cases of wine per ton. So times that by 2, 130 to 150 cases per acre on a high quality, moderate yielding vineyard generally.
We get a lot of good questions. I don't know if you see this, but so what happens to the fruit left behind?
The birds get the fruit. The bird gets the fruit that we leave behind. In fact, the birds want all the fruit. And depending on your spot in your vineyard, you might have bigger or smaller, bird pest issues. So here's the thing: if you've got the first fruit to ripen in your area of the year, you're going to get a lot of losses to the birds. Okay. During the mid part of the year, everybody takes a little bit of loss, so it's not too bad. If you've got fruit that hangs late into the season, you're going to have lots of loss again because you're the only thing left.
Yeah.
So that fruit that gets left, it doesn't last long.
Oh, that's funny. Well, luckily, I'm only guessing that fruit then comes back as fertilizer later on if they really, have the birds nearby. So, circle of life type of thing.
Yeah, they didn't get the message on don't whatever where you eat. It's all
which side. I feel like everybody benefits from really by the end of it. Hey, I'm going to ask you a few things too when it comes down to the wines specifically. So I want to go back to the pendulum. When it comes down to when you would drink this, what would you be drinking it? What would the scenario be? Is this a dinner wine? Is this something that you're hanging out with friends? Just, I don't know, paint a picture for me. Because now, all I'm doing is sitting in your tasting room watching the sunset in Los Osos. And I'm fine with that if you just want to go there. But I didn't know if there was any food pairing or anything else that you would recommend with this wine.
It's a good wine for Los Osos sunsets, but food wise, this is like the everyday house blend red. So this to me is generally, burgers, pizza, mid-weight kind of wine, kind of foods. But what I've learned about this wine, what I think is really cool about being a winemaker is obviously you learn about your wines in the production side, but over time, when you make a wine for a long time, you start to hear about what people's opinions of that wine are. And they're often really surprising, especially when you start to hear a theme. Okay. And the theme behind the pendulum has always been that everyone likes it. So when we have members that share it with other people, oh, maybe they didn't like the Gruner. The Gruner's a little tight and austere. It's not that fleshy Chard. Or maybe the Pinot, I don't know, whatever. Certainly some of the Grenache we make is a little herbal and Grenache and not very fruity, more in an old world way.
Yeah.
So, you get these feedbacks and some of it's like, oh yeah, I totally get that. That wine is not for everyone. But the one about this is the wine club members or the family members or friends are like, when I pour this for other people, everyone likes it. When we first created this wine, what we wanted to do was make a wine that it was really a little bit of everything. Okay. It was a little bit of old world herbs and earth, which comes from the Grenache, and the Grenache that goes into this wine is very herbal. It's very tobacco. It's very earth. It's very light as well. It's not very colored. And the Syrah component is actually very dense and very blue and it brings the
Huh.
structure and it brings the fruit intensity. And so we wanted to create something that had a little bit of everything. It had concentration, like a New World wine should,
Mhm.
but had some of that old world herbs and spices, fruit driven herbs and spices, not too barrely, very fruit exposed, like we want Baker and Brain wines to be, very open and
Yeah.
accessible. Um, and to have good acidity, but also have good weight. So, we're trying to like pick
Mhm.
these paradigms and find
Yeah.
this middle point by making this old world rustic, aromatic herbal Grenache and this
Yeah.
ripe, juicy, fruity Syrah, and falling this point in the middle that brings it
Yeah.
together. Okay, so
Yes.
in the early vintages, the pendulum swung back and forth. Sometimes we'd have a little bit more Grenache, sometimes we'd have a little more Syrah, and we saw how the wines balanced over time, and it was fun. And let's be
Mhm.
perfectly honest, we make some single vineyard wines from these vineyards as well. So the
Yes.
pendulum sometimes swung according to, you know, supply and demand and balancing the other things. It wasn't
Is that why you
always,
call it pendulum? It's like I'm going to use this to swing whatever the
no,
band
I
actually goes
never,
into.
I did, yeah, it was
I totally
always
appreciate that.
crafted with artistic intent down to the last drop. No, moving on. It swung around a little bit, and it's always been fun. When it's more Grenache, it's a little bit more herbs, it's a little bit more zippy red. When it's heavier Grenache, it's a little more blue, it's a little bit
Hmm.
heavier, and it's fun. It's fun. It's been
Okay.
fun to watch age. It's been fun to craft them.
Yes.
um, I think in my mind, the 2011 Rhones that we made are really drinking well right now. The 12s are starting to show really nicely. So this wine actually ages quite nicely as well. If you
Nice.
like some of those secondary characters and those tertiary characters to develop more of that herbaceousness and some of those meaty kind of charcuterie characters from the Syrah to come out, this wine has some nice aging potential too, which I think is fun.
That is really cool, especially when it comes down to how approachable it is too. Like, I mean, yes, aging. A lot of times, like when people talk about aging, they might throw that into like, oh, I only age wine that's a certain, like you could say, price point. But
Hmm.
your price points are all like for the quality of wine that you get, darn approachable, man. Like yeah, I mean,
Oh,
I
thanks.
think it's what around 40 or maybe 35 or something like that. But we're talking about like
Yeah.
really like high quality single vineyard like grapes in a wine that's consciously made. Like that's really good. And
Thanks.
I got to ask you a few other questions. I know we're running out of time, so I got to ask you. So Baker and Brink, how's it been lately with you guys? Like, what's opening look like? I mean, no, this we only have a few minutes, so I'm sure we could talk for a while. But are you guys opening soon? And how can we help support you guys? Like, can we come visit you yet? Can I send my cousins Joni and Tom over there and just
Yeah.
tell them to drink as much as possible, or what?
Yeah. We have been doing like a curbside pickup thing. We haven't been comfortable with the situation to open up into any kind of
Totally
tasting
understand.
or experience. Working for Chamasol, and I'm actually the safety officer there. We put a lot of thought and resource into how to do it right.
Hmm.
And with Baker and Brain, we don't have those resources. So to
Yeah.
date, we haven't been able to do anything.
Hmm.
Our unfortunately, the members of our wine club they're hurting like a lot of the public is in terms of their income.
Hmm.
A lot of our wine goes to restaurant. We're not in grocery stores. So
Yeah.
Baker and Brain, we're hurting like a lot. I don't want to harp on it, but it's tough. It's tough for the small producer.
Yeah.
So I think my message to everyone, and I know that if people are tuning into this, they're probably into great wine and small produced wine, is support your local person, because it's
Yeah.
it's crushed us. You're going to see a lot of producers not get through this, and it's sad. So it's been tough. Now, good news, we are about to open up again by appointment to some modified tastings.
Hmm.
And modified being, we're gonna have to be taking precautions to minimize interactions with our staff. But
Yeah.
we figured out a way, and we've been really, really talking through the details because we want to do it right, like everyone does. And we're going to figure out a way to get that open ASAP.
Yeah.
And so if you're interested to come by, give us a call, reach out, email or phone. It's all on the website, and we will figure out a way to get a tasting set up for you in the near future.
You know, I love it. You know, in general too, people. Oh, sorry. Do you have a second message from
I do.
Melanie?
I do. That the website is bakerandbrain.com.
That's
Yeah.
right.
Yeah.
And they can buy off your website, right?
They can. Yes. Yes. Thank you. Thank you. Yes, you can order wine from the website.
Exactly.
We have some sales going on. Six bottles of anything mix or match gets you 20% off right now.
Oh my gosh.
So
Okay. As much
that's a
as
good deal.
I would love it, like, hey, basically, I really want people to be able to spread the word. So, guys, this is everybody that's watching now. If you could, make sure to let people know about Baker and Brain. Because when it comes down to it, you're the only game in Los Osos right now when it comes down to wine. Like, it really is easy. Like, hey, go to the best winery in Los Osos. Like, that's easy to say. You're not lying. But on top of it, like, I feel like you have done such a good job of explaining why that's not just a marketing employee because you're the only winery. Mm-hmm. Like, you really do consciously make the wine you make, and it's coming from great vineyards too. And I would love it if people were able to support you, because we right now are carrying Pendulum, and if anybody signs up for our wine club, they will get that right away. But that's only one bottle, and I actually would rather they get 6 bottles of yours. So as much as I'd love for them to sign up for the wine club, guys, feel free to go to Baker and Brain and reach out to these guys and get some of their wine too. Because I don't know, I actually am now kind of tempted, because this is great, and I feel so guilty. I need to try more of your stuff, because it's now been over a year since I've tried some of the other things. And so,
well, if anyone wants to reach out and you included, I would be happy to put together an assortment to pleasure your palate. You know, even
I would love it if you pleasured my palate.
Yes,
Please,
that's what I do.
I would love that if you pleasured my palate.
Yeah, and folks, please come by and see us sometime soon. We'd love to have you and pour the wines for you.
I love it. Well, hey, man, seriously, thanks for joining. I'm going to do a few other announcements after I say bye, but right now, I just want to say thanks. And I hope you guys, for all of us here that are going to be enjoying about 100-degree heat plus for a while, please enjoy Los Osos for all of us.
Thanks, brother.
Hey, also, when you get a chance, get a burger from Sylvester's.
Yes, I will do that. Thank you, man.
All right.
Thank
Later,
you
man.
so much. Appreciate it.
You got it.
Okay.
Guys, thank you so much for tuning in tonight. Baker and Brain is more than just the only winery in Los Osos. I think you guys got that tonight. It is an amazing winery that sources from such cool vineyards. I had no idea how cool you could watering a vineyard could be cool. That's a thing. But at the same time, if you guys are interested, we are selling the Pendulum right now. If you sign up right now, you can get this along with another bottle that is just outstanding from our wine club. But the reason we do Bricks and Barrel is to connect you with small wineries. We aren't selling from large wineries because we believe in people like Matt. That's it. So even though I would love it if you bought this from us, please follow them, buy from them, support local wineries so that they can get through this. This is more important than what we're doing. The reason I started this is so that we connect with people like him. He's a great guy, makes great wine. Also, a few other people that make great wine. David Scheit, Master Scheit. We got a few of his bottles we are now carrying. More than just the 1TL, a few others, as well as we got more of the Ampelos in. So if you are interested in buying some wine, and we sold out previously, we just got another package in. Thank you, Amanda, for helping me out with that. But at the same time, guys, I hope you're staying safe. Please, please do not ignore what's going on in the world. Keep your eyes open, but if you need to, have a glass of wine with somebody, maybe even your driveway, and talk about things, because there's some really crazy stuff going on. But I really believe that if we pop a cork, have a glass of wine, we might be able to have a better conversation and actually get through this. So guys, thank you. We're going to do this again next week, but with trivia night. I'll see you online. Bye.